All right, now here's part 2 of our interview with Walid Shoebat.
No, I was saying try to kill George Sr., so a lot of people think that Bush Jr. went in for that. Just want to clarify, but please continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's what story from the Western side is. But it doesn't make sense. Okay, so we want to kill Saddam Hussein because of Bush Sr. Okay, but why kill Zayn al-Abidin?
Right.
How many Americans even know who Zayn al-Abidin is? Tunisia. Why give
I do not
Tunisia
know.
to al-Nahda, the Muslim Brotherhood? What's that about? Did Zayn al-Abidin threaten to kill Bush Sr.? No. Why remove Muammar al-Qaddafi, especially when the West has already tamed Muammar al-Qaddafi after the Pan Am fiasco, and Reagan also sent the sorties and kind of tamed Muammar al-Qaddafi. He was some sort of a joker, but nevertheless, he was holding Libya intact. Why remove these so-called thugs, if you will, and bring in ISIS, in which you have cage-burning, beheadings, raping, selling of slaves, concubinage, bloodthirst, killing Copts? Is this what we want to see on the screen every day? So, this whole thing doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense to me is that Obama is on the side of Erdogan and has a master plan. And he's playing it well. It's not naivete. It's agreement, because those are revolutionaries. Even Carter was a revolutionary, the liberal.
Well, I want to know what Wally thinks about the State Department's comment that we need to get ISIS jobs. And that will solve
That's my comment. I mean, excuse me, giving jobs. I mean, I remember, was it George, what's his name? Was it not? He writes for the New York Times. He used to always say that. I was laughing. In fact, I wrote an entire book on the subject, Why We Want to Kill You. The whole idea of giving jobs. Well, terrorists aren't in poverty. Not all terrorists are in poverty. The 17 9/11 hijackers, they weren't in poverty. The Lebanese guy wasn't in poverty. Mohammed Atta wasn't in poverty. They were getting an education in Germany. They must have had some money there. So it's not an idea of poverty. It's an idea of the Islamic form of salvation. In fact, this is why the FSA, a lot of the members of FSA is moving to Al-Nusra. Al-Nusra is Al-Qaeda, Why? Because they want to make sure that when they die, they're going to go to heaven. In fact, this is the arguments they make. If I fight under the FSA and I fight ISIS here, I'm killing Muslims. If I fight Al-Nusra, I'm killing other Muslims. Will I be going to heaven if I died in the process? Or should I join ISIS and kill Shias and kill Christians and kill Yazidis and kill what have you? This way I ensure myself to go to heaven. So this is the answer. The answer is that it is an issue of going to heaven, because in Islam it's very clear. By the first drop of the Muslim blood in fighting warfare, he goes to heaven. He becomes an intercessor for 70 members of his or her family. And so this is the ideology.
Does that have anything to do with the 70 virgins that you're supposed to get when you're a martyr for Islam?
Yes, of course, but the 70 virgin is a bonus. It's not the issue of 70 virgins. The main issue, the West also like to think about the sex part, but it's really the issue of going to heaven, making it the other side. Whether you have boys in heaven, sex in heaven, women in heaven, sure, that's a bonus depending on your sexual affiliation. But the idea is to go to heaven, and the idea is salvation. The idea is to be pleasing to Allah. And so the Quran is very clear. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٌ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Do not think that the ones who die in the cause of Allah, i.e. in warfare, are dead, but are alive with Allah, receiving His blessings. Sort of like in Christianity, to be absent of the body is to be present with the Lord. But in Christianity, it's the bloodshed of Jesus as a Christian Messiah that sends you to heaven. Well, in Islam, it's your own blood. So it's taking really a Christian concept.
Actually, in Judaism, it's not that. It's how you live your life, and how you perform tikkun olam to help heal the world and heal people. In the Talmud, it says to save one life is to save the world. That's, we can get past all this religious thought for 1 second and just say we're one race of human. And God, the Almighty, the Creator of Israel, is our Creator. But
what we being one race is not a theology. That's the problem.
We were all descendants of Abraham, aren't we? Almost.
Yes, but where is that in the theology of Islam? Where do you find that in the theology? We're just one race, one people. No. The Quran says, كنتم خير أمة للناس أخرجت لله تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You were the greatest of all nations to the Muslim. So the best of all people is the Muslim. It's a superiority complex that you're dealing with. Where you as a Jew says, I don't have a superiority complex. I think we're all children of Adam. We know if you adhere to at least the Noahide laws, you're fine with me. But that is not the case with Islam.
You know, I mean, God set us aside to suffer for the world, to bring the message of Echad, that God is one. That's the whole point, you know. And that's what it comes down to, is the world has hated us for all this time because of our message. Think about it.
Well, I mean, the Muslim doesn't say that the Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. He doesn't have a problem with the Shema, you see. He has a problem with you not accepting his Muhammad as the Messiah. And so, if you don't
Heck, we don't even accept Jesus, the JC man, as Messiah. So how can we accept Muhammad? Come on, give me a break.
Well, I agree with you there that you don't have to accept Muhammad as the Messiah.
And we certainly won't accept Jesus either. That's the whole point, you know?
Well, yes, but this is the message. You got to bow towards the Kaaba. You got to do the Shahadatan. I declare there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. In fact, you could argue with a Muslim and say, okay, well, I accept there's God, and accept Ezekiel as his messenger, and Yirmiyahu as his messenger, and Yoel as his messenger, and No, that's not enough. You got to well, wait a minute. The Muslim argues and says, that we respect all religions, we respect all faith, we respect Judaism, we respect Christianity. But
well, then why are they cutting their heads off then?
Well, because you don't accept Muhammad as his messenger. That's the idea. So this is the evil concept, is that you must accept Allah and Muhammad as his messenger. Well, what if you accepted 20, 30 other messengers? No, that's not good enough. You have to accept Muhammad as his messenger. Well, this really thwarts the argument of the Muslim that, he believes in all the prophets and everything else. So you have to understand that Islam has an alkaline. That's the alkaline. They make statements like this, but there's also an acid reality. Muhammad says, "Umirtu an uqatil an-nas hatta yaqulu la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah." I've been ordered to fight all people till they say there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. So you could say, yeah, I believe in God, but you don't believe Muhammad is his messenger. Muhammad has been ordered by Allah to fight all people till they make this declaration. In other words, it's conversion or die. What happens to this verse in the Quran that says there's no compulsion in religion? Well, that's the alkaline. That's what they call mansukh. There is the abrogated verses with abrogating verses. The verse of the sword abrogates the verse of no compulsion. It was a time there was no compulsion, but after Medina, the verses became violent, and those Makkiyan surahs have been made null and void. And that's the part that the Muslim world doesn't tell the West.
I just want to go back to the concept of these Muslims, these terrorists dying for these 72 virgins. It's very interesting because Judaism has a concept of dying on Kiddush Hashem. Like if a Jew is murdered because he's Jewish, he automatically goes to heaven. And I find it interesting that Islam a lot of times takes Jewish values and perverts it. And they get a lot, I believe, a lot of their religion from Judaism. They pray 5 times a day because the Jews pray 5 times a day on Yom Kippur. So I want to know what you guys thought about that.
Well, yes. I mean, you have a point. You have to understand, the Christian faith, well, it started with Catholicism. Catholicism came from the Jewish faith. Islam came from the Catholic faith, which really has concepts, Jewish concepts. The prayer, even bowing and kneeling and all these things, comes from Jewish concepts very much, which comes from ancient Catholic concepts. But they didn't accept the Trinity. Now, you'd think this is a unification issue between a Jew and a Muslim, in which the Jew will say, the Shema, God is one, he's not a triune God, But the problem is that it's not just the issue of unification of God's oneness in this case, and that the Jew has, basically changed the Old Testament, has hidden the concept of Muhammad being in the Old Testament or in the New Testament. So they believe that the Jews fabricated or corrupted the Bible. All of that's not taught in Islam itself. There's nothing in the Quran that says the Bible has been corrupted. That evolved later on. And the problem with Islam is really the Hadith. When the Hadith talks about the Jew, it is not very sympathetic towards the Jew. And so with the multitudes of Hadith in interpreting the Quran, you have a major problem. So in other words, you can possibly look at the Quran in a way and say, okay, let's moderate the theology. But with the Hadith, you can't do that, especially when the Quran itself says that none of you believe unless you believe in the angels, the books, and the prophets, and ulil amri minkum, the knowledgeable scholars amongst yourselves. There's your problem. It's the knowledgeable scholars, the knowledgeable faithful. And so you have a litany of writ, whether you look at Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, Ibn Taymiyyah especially, you have a litany of hadith that's supposed to have been narrated by Muhammad that says, kill the Jew. What are you going to do with that volume? You don't find a single Muslim scholar that's ready to denounce all this volume of work. None of them will, because they'll be killed. And so you have from Al-Azhar, the Wahhabist, Hizb al-Tahrir of Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood, they all teach that theology. And there's no time, there's no, this reformation ain't happening. In fact, the opposite is what's happening, is more of restoration to those concepts by reviving Islam again. So what's happening is the reverse of the wishful thinking of the tikkun ulams of the world, of the West, of many in Israel who think, who have this, liberals in Israel who think they have this concept of democratizing the Palestinians and making democracy in the Middle East. It's not working out. It's just not working out. You have to fight it as you fought Nazism.
150,000 Muslim men from Palestine was sent to Germany to work in the death camps. I do know that already.
Yeah, you had the Mufti of Jerusalem, Al-Husseini. Abdul Al-Husseini, he was one of the main. He was a friend of my grandfather. He issued a request from the Hungarian Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs not to allow Jews to go to Palestine. Many children died, thousands died as a result of Husseini. He had a radio program in Germany blasting all this jihadism stuff, and he was a Muslim Brotherhood. People forget that. He was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. So, in fact, the idea of politicizing Islam and militarizing Islam didn't really come from Hassan al-Banna as much. He wanted to use Islam to better Egypt. It was Hizb al-Tahrir, al-Nabahani, Hizb al-Tahrir from the 30s. He died in the 70s. Al-Nabahani was the first to begin to kind of reiterate the idea of politicizing Islam. In fact, it wasn't OBL, Osama bin Laden, who founded Al-Qaeda. It was a Palestinian from Jenin. I forgot his name. I'm having a senior moment. But it was a Palestinian who really was behind Al-Qaeda, the inception of Al-Qaeda from the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas was incepted from the Muslim Brotherhood. All the problem, ISIS and all of these things, Wahhabi Muslim Brotherhood, Hizb al-Tahrir, those began to immigrate into UK, even the Iranian Revolution. In other words, the secular governments that was placed by Great Britain or France rejected this idea and began to persecute these people, and they found the embryo for their movement in the West, in the UK, which moved into in the Indian subcontinent. And from the UK, it began to move in Europe into the US. And you have the revolution, Iranian Revolution. It was exiled in France after Carter, looked the other way for the Shah of Iran. Then you had the Khomeini, Ayatollah, coming back after the revolution of Iran, establishing the first Islamic revolution there in Iran, Shia. So we think the Shiites are good and the Sunnis are bad because Shiites are being killed. No. Netanyahu's right. Iran is a major threat.
My message to the American Jewry is, things seem relatively simple right now for us. However, it's about to get a whole lot complicated, and I would like you to talk about ISIS's plan and Muslim Brotherhood plan for America.
Well, as far as, for America, ISIS made it very clear. سَنَضْرُبَكُمْ فِي عَقْلِ دَارِكُمْ. We will strike you in your front, in your home front. In fact, I've written what I titled the ISIS Manifesto. Everybody should read that. The plan is to kill 10 million Americans. And the idea is that they calculate how many Americans killed in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War I, World War II. They estimate in Germany 10 million. That's how much America has to pay of citizens as far as death. And so they talk about weapons of mass destruction, disease warfare, you name it. Jihad, they have different even styles of jihad. Jihad al-Tabyit, the jihad, repulse jihad. In other words, how can you repulse an enemy that you cannot defeat? So you gotta manufacture, you gotta do something akin to weapons of mass destruction. If you think 9/11 was bad, ISIS has a major grand plan for the U.S., and that is weapons of mass destruction.
Biowarfare, or are they going to use nuclear?
Yeah, they talked about bio. They talked about anything. I mean, ISIS has used scorpions, put it in a shells, and began to use shells with scorpions, thousands of scorpions. People thought I was crazy. I found the video of a warehouse captured with breeding scorpions, and you could see tens of thousands of scorpions in this pile of scorpions. I showed the video. People, I guess you weren't kidding.
You have to look at the sources, because Hollywood puts out a lot of Hollywood-type propaganda as well. No, not this one. This one, you can see the Iraqi army there. You can see the pile of scorpions. It's a captured area for ISIS, in which you see the scorpions. I mean, you can't deny the thousands. It's very obvious that's what it is. No one denied it. But it is ideas that comes from the Middle Ages. That's what they used to do. They used to catapult scorpions. They catapult all kinds of things, diseases, all kinds of things of that sort. Use menstrual period, put it in the water, rags, you name it. They have this in this manifesto. And you have the approval of jurisprudence, major jurisprudence. They get from Ibn Taymiyyah to Hadith to Quran, you name it. They're actually going to take biological weapons and scorpions and anything that could cause mass destruction and attack major U.S. cities? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know about the scorpions with major U.S. cities. They were using it in Iraq, but they're going to come up with some sort of disease if they can, or some sort of, mini nuke. I mean, you could take a look at some of these operations they do. I mean, they can get a rig, and I have a whole video on it and showing the details of how it works to make from the rig a massive bomb, almost like a mini nuke. And I show even several examples in Pakistan, how they blew these, even American installation. It makes a huge explosion, massive explosion of mega proportion. If and when they do this in a bridge in the U.S., bingo, it cripples that city, and that's the idea. And they have these plans very much in the open. You can go to YouTube and you can see how to make rocket launchers from manure. You can use the manure, even go to farms and use certain chemicals with the manure to extract the necessary chemicals to make the shells, to make the launching pad, launching mechanism. 80 videos, from 1 to 80, you can watch in detail from A to Z how to make. And this is like akin to creating a Hamas using those rockets. And so it is not far-fetched to have Muslims from Mexico infiltrate and begin to use these things in airports, you name it.
I wonder if you could talk a little more about, the 10 million, they're trying to kill 10 million Americans, the the government of the United States, are they aware? Because with 9/11, they were told something was going to happen. They were even told by Israel, and they ignored it. I want to know if the government is going to ignore this time.
Well, of course they've ignored it because it's a fact. It was all over the Middle East news. A Tunisian ISIS was caught with his laptop, and the plans weren't there. And you can go to Shoebat, just put the name Shoebat, Shoebat, and ISIS Manifesto. Click on that. You can go to the Arabic version, click on that. You can hit Google Translate, click on that, and you can find out everything I'm telling you is true fact. The document has been, discovered by the Saudi government. Is the Saudi government making it up? Why would they make it up, And so the Saudi government says this is the real thing. This is what the plan is. The CIA does not disclose it, does not talk about it. This is why we exist.
All right, thank you everyone for listening. Today's episode of Is a Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Arut Sheva. Our guest this afternoon was Walid Shoebat. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, send me an email to messiahhour@gmail.com. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account at israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Right now, we're going to play some music from Danny Lewis. Danny Lewis is a guitar player and artist here in Jerusalem, and you can find his music by Googling him. His name is Danny Lewis, D-A-N-N-Y, then L-O-U-I-S. And you can find him on Bandcamp as well. So take it away, Danny.